Okay, so it is 3 minutes after 2 o'clock. Let's get started. I want to welcome everybody. I am Jill Pleasant. I'm the director of AzTAP, which is the Arizona Technology Access Program. And with me as a co-presenter is Martha Lewis. And Martha is the program associate for AzLAT, and she really runs she does the day-to-day operations of the program. And we're planning this to be about an hour. We're going to allow some time for questions and answers. Now, the only people that have speaking capability are Martha and myself. Everybody else, if you'd like to question or make a comment, then use the chat window. Okay, so what we have on the left is the PowerPoint presentation that we'll be going through. You have a chat box, and then we do have this webinar captioned, and so the caption box is above the chat box next to the two of us. And as I said earlier, this is really the second webinar that AzTAP is delivering, and this is the first one with captioning. So it was a little bit of trial and error trying to figure out. We have Carla Martin as the captioner, and she's very well-known Valley and I guess statewide CART caption professional, but this is her first go at providing the captioning through the Adobe Connect platform. So we're very excited to be able to offer this. And for future presentations, when you register on the AzTAP website, and it's our trainings, and there's an online form, there is now a box that allows people to put in their requests for reasonable accommodations. So anyway, for those of you who may not know very much about us, do want you to know that we are part of Northern Arizona University. We work for the Institute for Human Development, but instead of being based in Flagstaff, we are based in Phoenix. But we are a statewide program. So the goal of today's webinar is for you, the participants, to learn how we have these two different alternative financing programs, AzLAT and SEED, and we'll talk about what the acronym means. And they help consumers obtain low-interest loans to buy the assistive technology that they want. So hopefully after the hour or so that we're going to be here together, that you're going to understand how the financial loan programs that we offer fit into our service delivery model, that you're going to understand how the AzLAT and the SEED programs work, including the eligibility requirements and the application loan approval process work, and also hopefully you'll come away understanding how we are different from a traditional bank. So as I said before, we are a Phoenix-based program of the Institute for Human Development at Northern Arizona University. And our mission is to connect people with disabilities with the assistive technology they need to participate as fully as possible in activities that matter to them, to that person. And so we have a couple of pictures here, a person at a computer, a gentleman with a visual impairment that was actually received one of our loans a number of years ago. He's signing the documents with a signature guide. And then the bigger picture is shows an adaptive cutting board and an adaptive knife. So those are just some of the things that we have. So as a program, we are federally funded under the Assistive Technology Act, and most of our funding, about 80% of our funding, comes from federally, the Department of Education Rehab Services Administration. And under the Assistive Technology Act, we are basically required to provide a number of different services and activities relating to assistive technology. So one of our mandated requirements is that we have to demonstrate AT devices. Now, we don't have to do consultations, but really as part of the demonstration process, we do consultations because we want people to end up with assistive technology that meets their needs, that will help them do what they want to be able to do, whether it's related to work or living independently or education, and in settings and environments that matter to them. So the consultations are really almost part of the demonstration process. We lend out devices for short-term loans. We also, depending on what we have available, we will put equipment out for longer-term use. So for example, the gentleman in this picture has an older, what we call a CCTV, a closed caption television that magnifies pictures. And this is on loan to him for an extended period of time. The device up here is a communication, an augmentative communication device, and we lend out a lot of those for short-term use so that people who have significant communication impairments can have opportunities to find the technology that's going to give them a voice. We also have an online equipment reuse, 2 online equipment reuse programs. So think about that in terms of kind of like a Craigslist. The people post items that they're no longer using, that they want to sell. We can also donate it or they can barter. And we have people who are looking for equipment. So if somebody's looking for, say, a scooter or a walker or a bathtub bench, and they can see what's posted, and we run the site. We make sure that anything that gets posted is legit, but we don't get involved in the financial transaction. We also have a database of other agencies that have equipment loan closets. So that's because there's a lot of AT that's useful, even if it's not state-of-the-art, but people can get that stuff less expensively. We do also lots of training, education, technical assistance. We do it for individuals, we do it for organizations, and for businesses. And so, this webinar is one example of trainings. Now, we've done in the past lots of face-to-face training in our office and in other area of the state, but having the ability to do webinars means that our reach can go further, because we are really required to serve all the people in all the counties in the state. And we're not a big program. We don't have a lot of staff, so technology may help us expand our reach. And for those of you who don't know, we do put on a major assistive technology conference every summer, and it's really open to service providers, people with disabilities. We usually have a lot of content for people involved in the education world, as well as people who are involved in voc rehab and other service providers. So that will be July 21st and 22nd at the Arizona Grand Resort. And there is more information on our website. And if anybody is on the website and you're doing assistive technology and you're interested in doing a presentation, we have a call for papers there. So those are the other things that we do, and obviously we're going to focus for the next 40 minutes or so on this last bullet, where we provide what we hope are affordable financial loans to help people buy technology. And we do want to distinguish that we have 2 loan programs. We have an equipment where we lend out equipment, but then we have a program where we're actually lending out money. So, okay, AzLAT stands for Arizona Loans for Assistive Technology. SEED Loan was actually an acronym that had to do with entrepreneurs and self-employment. But we've broadened the program. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So we sort of dropped the longer name and just saying that they're SEED loans. So AzLAT was our first loan program. And it's available to help finance assistive technology for use by a person with a disability. And that means things, will be equipment. And again, it's equipment oriented. We want it to be able to support independent living, to help access and participate in education, to enhance community integration, facilitate engagement in activities of one's own choosing, and ultimately to achieve and improve quality of life. So that's the AzLAT program. And it means that, now that does not mean that the borrower is always the person with the disability. What it does mean is that if it's a parent or if it was a friend on behalf of somebody, ultimately what gets purchased with the loan funds has to be for the use or the benefit of the person with a disability. Now, our SEED loan program is a little bit different. somewhere around 2002, the federal government was hoping that people with disabilities could be would achieve greater employment if they could be encouraged to telework, to work off-site, or to have an independent business. So there was a pool of money that was available to support that, and we did get a grant for that program as well. And the difference with the telework is that not only could the equipment be assistive technology, but it could be a business, equipment related for business. So in telework, when we do these seed loans, we look for items that are going to support employment. Now, not just as an independent contractor or not just as an entrepreneur, but it could be for somebody who's an employee, and having the technology would allow them to get a job, to maintain the job they have, or even to improve their job capabilities at work, maybe to go up to a higher level. So there's a lot of similarities. We make many more loans for AzLAT. We don't make very many loans for, especially on the self-employment side. We haven't received that many applications. Okay. So just a little bit more background information. As I said, it's designed for the borrower to purchase assistive technology either for themselves or for a person who has a disability. The other thing is, there's no right or wrong type of disability. We don't have a restriction like this is only for people with blindness or this is only for people who are deaf of hard of hearing. We don't normally ask for a statement from a person's physician. We usually accept what they say to us, but we ask them to describe how their disability impacts their life. So we actually began making loans in 2003. It took us a while to put the program in place. There were federal requirements. We had to, in order to draw down federal monies, we had to find monies from a non-federal source. We did get a grant from the Pulliam, the Nina Mason Trust Pulliam, that was really the seed money for this program. And then this AzLAT and seed loans is a partnership, and there are 3 or 4 different entities. NAU, IHD, the Institute for Human Development, as programs that we work under, and AzTAP, we provide the program management, the day-to-day oversight. If you're a loan program, you have to have a bank, because the bank underwrites the money, and so we don't actually lend our own money out. And the bank, the lender that we were able to form a really good working relationship is Arizona Multibank. And in fact, we have 2 of the 2 people on the webinar from Multibank. And Multibank is a nonprofit. It's a community development finance institution. And if I haven't said that right, Allison, you can type that in. And so we work very, very closely. We've been doing this with them for 10 years, and they're a small group also. They're not Wells Fargo or Bank of America, but it was the right lender for us. It was just a really good fit. Now, the actual loan decisions are not made by me. They're not made by Martha. We have what we consider a consumer-controlled review board. And the board is made up of the majority of people either with disabilities themselves or they have a family member, another close connection. And once we get all the information from the applicant, the decision and the information gets presented to the board. And we meet monthly, although we can also teleconference as well, and we've done that when there was a pressing need. And we look at those applications very carefully. We have a lot of discussions. So, and the policies and procedures are also agreed upon by the board as well. And then finally, our 4th partner is the Arizona Community Foundation, and they are a very well respected financial management institution here they're in Phoenix, although there's their reach is statewide. We have two accounts. We have funds for this AzLAT and the SEED program, and they manage the investments of those monies. So here's some things to know about the program. We try, in order to make the loans affordable, there are several things that we do. One is that we try to be flexible on the repayment terms. So generally, loans run from 12 to 60 months. When you stretch out a loan, it does make the payments lower. That may make it more affordable for some people. But we also look at what it is they're borrowing the money for and what is the, so to speak, the usable life of the equipment. Generally, our loan amounts run from $500 to $10,000. The current interest rate is 3.25%. So, but that is subject to market conditions. If the prime rate goes up, our interest rate would go up a little bit. But really, we've been at this rate for over a year now, probably closer to 2 years. There's no income floor or ceiling. And what that means is, if you came to us and you made $200,000, we would not tell you that you earned too much money. On the other hand, if you came to us and you only have SSI or Social Security disability or supplemental income, we wouldn't say that was too low by itself. So there's no limits to or no income requirements for the program per se. We do give very careful consideration to what might be considered extenuating or mitigating circumstances if somebody has poor credit history. Because we look at, well, how did their health or disability issues affect previous ability to pay back credit. And we also offer a range of borrower consumer support services. So basically, to be eligible for the program, you have to be a U.S. citizen and Arizona resident. Well, no, U.S. resident and an Arizona resident. You have to use the loan to buy assistive technology either for a person or by a person with a disability. Bullet number 3, the legal ability to enter into a contract with the lender means that somebody has to be at least 18 years of age and not have been deemed in guardianship or incompetent. And the key thing is that the borrower has to demonstrate to us that they've got the ability to repay the loan through sufficient credit, through sufficient monthly income and credit worthiness. I mean, those are really the key factors. This is a loan program. We can't give this money away. And we want people to be successful. It's better for them because, you know, we do see credit reports where the scores are pretty low. But if somebody takes a loan from us and pays it off in a timely manner, that's actually going, because we do report this to the credit bureaus, and that's going to improve their credit scores. The other thing that's a requirement is that the borrower has to agree that they're going to be able to repay the loan by direct debit from a checking or savings account. They're not sending us a check on a monthly basis. Multibank has a debit from their directly on a specific day each month from the savings account. So anybody who didn't see that, Allison did write that Multibank is a community development corporation. Okay, so what can the loan money be used for? Under the AzLAT loan, it can, the federal definition of assistive technology really says something about it's really any device, whether it's commercially available, custom-made, that helps somebody with a disability to be able to do something they couldn't do before. So that's describing the piece of equipment. But there's also a piece about 8 services that support the use of technology. And those could be evaluations, installation, training, repairs to an existing device. So you can come to us and request a loan for an AT service. And we've had that where somebody went for a driving evaluation, for example. But more typically, we're actually approving loans, or the requests are for assistive technology in several different categories. and those could be mobility products like scooters or lifts for vehicles so somebody can travel with their wheelchair or their scooter. We've done recently some van conversions. We've done a braille and speak device. We've done hearing aids. We actually, I don't think we've ever done a speech communication device, only because Arizona happens to do a good job of providing those through our DDD system. We have done some home modifications, as I said, vehicle modifications. We've done computers. We've done, and you'll see a picture of this, an adapted bicycle for a gentleman who has spinal cord injury, environmental control. So those are the basic categories. Now, under the SEED Loan program, it's not just assistive technology, although it could be, but it could be computers, that if somebody were starting a business and they needed some specialized equipment, let's say they were doing something with baking, if they were doing a home, or they were doing baked goods and they needed like a fancy mixer or some other kinds of equipment, even though that's not assistive technology, it could qualify under the SEED Loan program. Office furniture, generalized office equipment, and it could be modifications to the home or outside of office space. And as I said, or it could be both. It could be some regular AT devices. So here's a couple of examples. I mean, this is not the car that we modified, but we have done vehicle conversions. The photo on the bottom left is actually the gentleman. This was an adapted bike. He was a wheelchair user. He liked to get out there, and this was a hand-controlled bicycle. The gentleman in the center, and this was a real borrower. What's interesting about this is he didn't borrow the money from us to buy the lift. He borrowed the money to pay off the lift because at the time he was paying 15% interest, and this was a number of years. This is probably close to 9-10 years ago. Our interest rate was higher than 3.25, but it was much lower than the 15%. So we do have people who come to us who've already purchased something, and we will consider, if their financials meet our criteria, they can save money. There's a big difference between an interest rate at 15% and one at 3.25%. And then the picture on the right, hearing aids. So we've done that. So recently we did a loan for a home modification. And in this situation, the borrower was a gentleman who was in a wheelchair. The picture, can you see my arrow? Does anybody?
I can't see it, Jill.
Okay. Well, I guess there's a way to do that. But anyway, the first picture on the left shows the bathroom before it was renovated. Regular size toilet, regular height. After the renovation, he had a raised toilet with a grab bar. Then he had before, it was just a regular walk-in shower. And what they did was they tore it down and they made a roll-in shower. So it was much more functional for him.
Arthur is asking if this is like a HUD program.
Well, HUD is Housing and Urban Development. So HUD may have some money for home modifications. I'm not sure about that. But it's not, this is separate from that. This is our program. So as part of what we do, we can consider a modification for a home modification, for a bathroom renovation, for example, like this one was. Okay, but there are some things that the money cannot be used for. While we will make a loan for the conversion or the adaptation of a vehicle, we will not lend money for the actual vehicle itself. So we had one family recently. They had a child with significant physical handicap. She was in a wheelchair. She was really getting too heavy for them to lift. They bought a vehicle that needed a conversion. They obtained a loan elsewhere for the vehicle. We paid for the conversion. We lent them the money for the conversion. We are actually a small program, so that's really the reason that we don't do the actual vehicle itself. The other thing is that we won't do utility costs, and this would be particularly for the seed loans like electricity, water, cable, internet. We just don't do that. You can't come to us for a loan for real estate. We won't do loans for lease agreements, and we don't pay for people. So for caregivers or staff, or even at this point service animals, because we don't consider those equipment or technology. Martha, is this one yours or mine?
That one's yours. Mine is the next one. But
Okay.
I can do this one.
You want to do that one? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh. Okay, so what do we do that makes us different than a regular bank? Okay, so if you call our office and you speak to Martha and you're not really sure how to fill out the loan application, she'll walk you through the process. The other thing is if you or somebody speaking Spanish, Martha is bilingual. She has translated one of our applications into Spanish. It's not on our website yet, but it will be after the first of the year. So if you're not understanding some of the questions, she's going to give you that one-to-one assistance in making sure it gets completed correctly. The other thing is that we don't want people to take a loan if they don't have to. So if we know there's another funding source, we're going to tell you about it. And so if you can get something free or reduced price, or there's another agency in town that would get you this, we're going to let you know about that. The other thing is, this is really a consumer, well, all of these are consumer options. We won't force this on anybody. If somebody comes to us and says, I want X device, this is the type of wheelchair lift I want, or this is the type of hearing aid I want, we're going to say fine, because people have the right to take loans. If you're going to take a loan out for a television, your bank's not going to tell you which TV set or which car to buy, if you're buying a car. However, if we think that there might be something, or if we have some concerns, we will tell you what those concerns might be. The other thing, if you come to us and say, I'm interested in adapted computer keyboards, can you give me some guidance as to what might meet my needs best? Then yes, we're going to have you work with one of our assistive technology specialists to mutually collaborate on helping you to know what's out there and why some things might work better for you than for somebody else. Same thing, if you don't know what vendors to go to, we can, again, the borrower is free to go anywhere they want, but we're going to try and help you find a vendor if you need that support. Now, if somebody comes to us and we see that there might be some errors on their credit report or things that confuse us, we're going to let you know. We don't do credit counseling ourselves, but we would direct you to other services. We would also say, here are some things that you might want to look at addressing. And finally, if once the person gets a loan, but there may be some repayment issues, we don't want the borrower to ignore us. We don't want people to go into default. We don't want them to miss payments, and we will try to work with them to avoid those situations. So I think those kinds of things make us different than a regular bank. You're not going to find that service if you walk into Bank of America. Okay, so now Martha's going to take over, and she's going to talk a little bit more about, well, how does the program work? And what happens when somebody calls her?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Usually I will get a phone call. Once in a while, someone will obtain the application from the website, from the AzTAP website. But I usually first get a call, and I mail them out the application, and I let them know that the applications must be received by the first Tuesday of the month, because the review board meets every second Tuesday of the month. And I also let them know that the applications must be submitted with proof of income and a vendor invoice for whatever the equipment they're asking to loan the money for. When I receive the applications, then I go through the application, make sure all the information is there. If the proof of income is there and the application, if there's missing information, then I will call. When I am sure that everything is in the packet, then I will fax it over to Camden at Arizona Multibank, and I will request a credit report, and he will fax me one back. After I have received everything, then I will summarize all the information um, and I will compile it on the credit application summary report. And then at the time of the review board meeting, I will share it with the committee, and they will discuss the packets, and they will vote on it. And then right after the meeting, when they have all voted, I will call the applicants and advise them of the decision. The committee can approve, deny, or pend further information, and I will call them that day, and I will give them any recommendations that the committee has made, and request any information that the committee needs, or I will inform them of resources. Sometimes, depending on the loan, well, if the loan is approved, there is a $10 um, fee for processing. Yeah, thank you. There's a $10 fee, and I request a voided check also so that I can turn over to Arizona Multibank so they can set up the payments and get the ball rolling on the loan documents. And closing date is set. Sometimes, depending on the loan, there will be an additional $30 fee, and that's for a title loan on the vehicle or a home. Let me see, closing date in it. And after everything is done, let me see what.
Actually, you're just a little bit ahead. Go back to the slide that's up. Just I wanted to go over a little bit more about the application itself.
Okay. The person with the disability type, okay, the information that's on the application. Some of the information that we will be requesting is the type of disability and the relationship of the person who has a disability, if it's the borrower or or another person is requesting the loan. The borrower's personal data, the financial data, where they live, and we will also request how the AT will be used. And there's a little explanation that they will give us. Their income, Social Security, their pension, any verification of the proof of income. Their financial obligations are also requested. In the
let me just jump in here 1 second. You don't have to be working to qualify. What you have to show us is that you have income, and that income could come from different sources. It could be from employment, but it could be from, as Marcus said, SSI, supplemental security income, SSDI, disability, Social Security, pension, child support. But we want to see it verified. We need to have the actual copies of the documents.
Yes. We also request the bank account information, the total amount requested of the loan, and the written price quote from the vendor. All that is compiled into a summary. We also calculate a debt to income ratio, which the review board looks at, which takes the monthly income and the payments and the obligations and gives a percentage rate of your income, how much it takes of your monthly income. And a lot of times that is used in the decision of how much the payments are going to be and the length of the loan.
Right. So we look at rent or mortgage, car loans, other kinds of loans. We don't take into account like electricity or food. So if somebody has an income of $1,000 a month and their bills, their credit obligations, including rent or mortgage, is $500, well, that's going to be a 50% debt to income ratio. And we really don't like to lend money beyond that rate because it just means that people are going to have a hard time paying us back. It's going to put a financial stress on them because, as I said, we know people have other things that they're spending money on: food, clothing, gas, things like that. And one other thing here is that we want to know what was that?
No.
The total amount requested for the we have a little delay here. The total amount requested for the AT, because somebody might be spending $5,000 total on the item, but they're only asking for $2,500 from us. So they may have, they're putting in their own money or somebody else is providing it. So we do want to know what the total cost is. Okay, let's move it to the next slide.
Okay.
So Mark is going to talk about 3 things can happen as a result of the meeting.
Yes. The first on the screen is application approved. I will call the borrower and give them verbal notification. And as I stated before, we'll set a closing date and a $10 loan closing fee, or between $10 and $30 closing fee will be paid by the borrower, and that's prior to the closing. I will also ask for the voided check so that the Arizona Multibank can set up the direct debit, the payments from direct debit. The borrower must come in and sign the closing. If they're out of state, I believe Alice and Camden, they arrange the paperwork to be done.
Out of Phoenix. Yeah, out of Phoenix, not out of, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Out of Phoenix, yes. And after everything is signed and done, and then the check is made payable jointly to the borrower and the vendor both. And loan payments are direct debited from the bank account, as I stated. That's why we need the voided check. If they their decision is to pen the application, then I will call the applicant and request the information or request whatever they need to do from the borrowers. And if there is a denial, I will call them and I will also write them a letter and let them know the reason for the denial. And I will provide them with any resources that the committee has given me, or any other funding sources or community sources. And that's it.
And occasionally, we've been able to provide some equipment free to people through our long-term loan program. So one other thing is that if the person is applying for a seed loan for self-employment where they're starting a business, they have to submit a business plan to us because we want to see how well thought out this business plan actually is. Are they going to be able to provide a source of income for themselves from this business? And we had a situation recently where we did he was applying for a seed loan. He wanted to provide healthcare services as a sort of like when people were on vacation, he would go to the company and be able to fill in. There were a lot of problems with his credit, and there were a lot of problems with his business plan as well. But one of the things we realized is he didn't even have a computer, so everything he gave to us was handwritten. All his research had to be done at the library, and then he would get kicked off because I guess the library limits the time that you can spend online. And so while we were not able to provide the loan to him, we were able to give him we do a little bit of computer reuse and we were able to provide him with a computer. Was it a laptop, Martha?
It was a laptop. And he
Yeah.
also had transportation issues, and so I went and I took him the computer, and I was able to meet him personally.
We had another situation recently where a woman got a loan for, it was basically it was related to a home modification, and she could not get out of bed. She had a lot of issues. She was feeling really poorly, and Martha and Camden from Multibank went out to her house and did the closing actually in her bedroom, but she couldn't get out of bed that day. So that's a customized, personalized service that we offer. Now, I do want to underscore that this is not only for Phoenix or Maricopa County residents. This is statewide. So while we do require that the loan documents be signed in the presence of a notary public, and usually it's done through Multibank staff, but if we have somebody who's, northern Arizona, southern Arizona, we will find either a local bank there or connect them with a local notary and have those documents signed. And once the signed documents get returned to us, then the check gets made out. The other thing I do want to mention is that probably 95% or more than that, the checks are made payable directly to the borrower and the vendor. And that's for everybody's protection. It's the protection of the vendor so that when we give the check to the borrower, they can't run off with it. The vendor can't, run off with it. We have had some situations where we have made it directly to the borrower because they're paying off a credit card that they bought equipment with, but then we do request that we need to see verification that the balance has been paid. So, we try to be flexible because we want to support people with disabilities to buy technology. But ultimately, this is a loan program, so we don't approve it. We've made a fair amount of denials during our 10-year history. We've made a lot more loans recently, and we'd like to continue making loans. So we're hoping that people who are on this webinar will be able to help us get the word out there a little bit more. So we have our website, which is aztap.org, and Martha is our frontline person. So if you or somebody might be interested, she's the person to call. And her contact information is on the screen, but also if you go to our website, and I know it's pretty small here, but I did make I highlighted the tab with red. It's the fifth one from the left, and it says AT, what does it say?
Funding.
Funding. I can't read that. That's great. I maybe need better glasses. AT Funding, and there you will find the application for the loan programs. You'll find some questions and answers. But again, if something's unclear or you want more information, she's the person to call. So it is 1:45. This gives us a little bit time for questions and answers. So type in your questions and we'll try to do the best. We'll try to give you, the answer. So we have 2 people typing.
Mm-hmm. I have many consumers who need to work from home.
Okay, so Patty says that she has many consumers who need to work from home but do not have a computer to do so. Would you fund this? Yes. I mean, we will consider funding that. It's not the equipment per se. It's, can they show us that they have the income and the credit history to be able to pay it back? So yes, we would certainly consider computers. Okay, so that's good to know. I mean, I guess the issue, and it's probably a catch-22 situation, if they don't have, if they can't show us. Now, if they have, I think, and Allison, correct me, but if one of the things under that seed loan telework, if they have a commitment from an employer that would show us that they're going to be paid, that they have a job offer, then I think we would count that as an income source. Oh, okay, sure. Then the SSI would be their primary, and we would base it on that. She's saying they're also on SSDI. And so we make loans to people who don't necessarily have stellar credit, but we also do see some really horrible credit reports, very low scores where people have walked away from everything, and that does make it very hard for our committee to approve a loan. So Arthur says, questions for remodeling loan program up to 10 grand. But if a bathroom remodel needs 10, what should the borrower do? So here's where we can be flexible. If you came to us and you said, I really need $12,000 for this, and if you showed us that you had the income and the credit history to support repayment, we have the flexibility to consider that. Now, if it's, hugely amount, like 50,000, we would probably say, no, that's too big for us. Any other questions? Well, it looks like we answered everything. So I want to thank everybody for participating. I hope it gave you a little bit more information. Oh, Allison is typing. Thank you, Allison. She said it very informative. So again, thank you for participating. I hope you learned a little bit more. If you have questions, call Martha. You can also contact me, but she's the one doing it every day, and we hope that we'll see some more applicants. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Well, everybody's very big typing.
Yes.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, so I'm going to
So we're done?
we're done.